A-State football player in custody tonight, charged with the murder of his pregnant girlfriend.
And when she was asking him to empty out his pockets, he was like, I don't have anything. When she called me, she never said hello. She never said my name. She never acknowledged that I was on the phone. She sounded like very wavy, and she started to say, you did this to me. You put something in my drink. I knew my drink tasted funny. That he was gonna paint a black hole, and the farther you look in it, the farther you'll go. And I was suggesting that he add stars to it, like make it a little bit more lively, because it sounded very dark.
Look at the apartment. 2 dinner plates. On the table. But only 1 glass. Jade Benning was 5 months pregnant. She wasn't drinking alcohol that night. So whose drink was it? And where did it go? Because when investigators examined photos taken on Jade's own phone, just before she lost consciousness, they saw it. A pink drink, sitting in the kitchen, clear as day. That cup was never recovered. And it wasn't the only thing missing. Items visible in those photos, objects that were there when Jade was still standing, were simply gone. By the time investigators arrived, they no longer existed. Even the apartment itself raised questions. For a medical emergency, for a scene where a pregnant woman had just collapsed, it was unusually clean, unusually organized, almost like someone had time to think before calling for help. Because Blaze Taylor didn't call 911 until 9:38 p.m. Jade had called her best friend at 9:29. 9 minutes. 9 minutes, where everything changed. And in that call, Jade never said hello. She didn't know the phone had connected. What Najaiha Jackson heard instead was Jade's voice. Weak, fading, barely holding on. You put something in my drink. I knew it tasted funny. I can't walk straight. She said it more than once. The drink, the taste, his name. Then she said she was going to pass out. And then she stopped talking. 9 minutes later, Taylor called 911 and told them it was an allergic reaction. Now go back to that apartment. The comforter collected from the scene tested positive for cocaine. Forensic pathologist Dr. Aaron Carney testified that the concentration found in Jade's system could only be reached one way: direct ingestion, not environmental, not accidental, not recreational. Jade had no history of cocaine use, no prior heart conditions, and according to the medical examiner, the level found in her system was not consistent with someone who chose to consume it. 2 months after Jade passed away, Taylor left Tennessee. When he spoke to his own mother, he didn't tell her the truth. He didn't tell her Jade was in critical condition. He didn't tell her his unborn child was gone. He told her Jade had COVID. His co-worker with the Tennessee Titans later testified, Taylor never mentioned a girlfriend, never mentioned a baby. And the day after Jade was hospitalized, he didn't appear distressed. He acted normal. He moved to Utah. He built a new life. For 13 months, nobody came for him. Until U.S. Marshals found him in a Walmart parking lot. He wasn't alone. And when officers approached,
Blaze, I need you to step out of the car for me, okay? What's your last name?
Taylor.
Your hands behind your back for me, okay?
his first words were, I know absolutely nothing about the case. He was wearing a hoodie that said, family. The case is still open. Stay with us. Jade Tristan Benning was born on March 6, 1998, in Little Rock, Arkansas. From an early age, Jade had a presence, not loud, not forced, but undeniable. She was a cheerleader, not just in school, but in spirit. From the age of 7, all the way through her high school graduation in 2016, she was on the mat, leading, encouraging, lifting others. People who knew Jade remember something very specific about her. She made you feel seen, important, valued. Not because she was trying to impress you, but because that's who she was. That was Jade. After high school, she chose a path, a clear one. She enrolled in the Brightwater Culinary Arts program, and in 2020, she graduated. She wasn't experimenting. She wasn't unsure. She was building something real, a future. By her mid-20s, Jade had already accomplished what many people spend decades chasing. She became head pastry chef at Mirabella's Table in Nashville. She worked in professional kitchens, high pressure, high standards, and she thrived in it. She also worked at Ernest Bar and Hideaway. Long hours, late nights, constant movement. But she kept going because she wasn't just working jobs, she was building her name. On the side, she launched her own catering business, JTB Eatery. Her name, her vision, her recipes. Built from nothing. Built by her. The people who worked beside Jade still struggle to speak about her in the past tense. Her manager at Ernest, Lauren Weber, got a memorial tattoo in her honor. The staff wear bracelets with her name. And every night, the restaurant lights a candle. Not because they have to, but because they want to. Because letting go isn't easy. Her creme brulee is still on the menu. Still served, still remembered. Jade had a family who loved her deeply. Her mother, Bridget, her father, Dennis. Her siblings, Brandon, Braylon, and Ava. And by late 2022, Jade had something else. Something she was already preparing her heart for. She was 5 months pregnant. She was expecting a daughter. And she had already chosen her name. Ivy Blair. She had a name. She had a vision. She had a future in mind. She talked about motherhood, the same way she talked about everything else. With certainty, with excitement, with love. She believed it was going to be beautiful. That was Jade's world, full of life, full of purpose, full of promise. And almost none of it was visible to the man she was seeing. Blaze Allen Taylor was born on March 22, 1996, into a household where football wasn't just a sport. It was identity. It was structure. It was expectation. From an early age, Blaze learned discipline. He learned performance. He learned how to succeed. He became a defensive back at Arkansas State, focused, reliable, trusted. He rose to team captain. He set school records in punt returns. He wasn't just participating, he was excelling. But his drive didn't stop on the field. Academically, he pushed just as hard. He earned both his bachelor's degree and his MBA in less than 4 years. He maintained a 3.84 GPA. He was recognized as a National Scholar Athlete. He became a finalist for the William V. Campbell Trophy, an award often called the Academic Heisman. He even founded a nonprofit organization, Power of One and Two, focused on helping children from underserved communities. From the outside, his life looked complete, structured, disciplined, successful. When his playing career ended, he transitioned naturally into coaching and scouting. Graduate assistant at Duke University, then a position with the Tennessee Titans, first as a scout, then promoted to pro scout in 2021. By 2023, he was a senior defensive analyst at Utah State. Every step forward, every step upward. His life followed a clean trajectory, predictable, professional, controlled. He was the man his resume described. But resumes only show what someone chooses to include. There were parts of his life that didn't appear anywhere. Jade Benning was one of them. She had been in his life, but their relationship existed quietly, almost invisibly. There were no public photos, no shared announcements, no acknowledgement. Nothing that connected their lives in the open. And when Jade discovered she was pregnant, something changed, but not in the way she had hoped. Blaze made his position clear. He didn't want the baby. He distanced himself. He stepped away, leaving Jade alone to face a future she hadn't planned alone. But Jade didn't beg. She didn't pressure him. She gave him a choice. He could be present, be a father, be involved, or he could walk away completely, sign away his parental rights. She didn't ask for child support. She didn't ask for money. She only asked for clarity because she was going to raise her daughter either way. For a time, he stayed away. Then he came back. They reconciled. He re-entered her life. The pregnancy continued, but the secrecy never disappeared. When Jade wanted to share her ultrasound photo, she didn't. Not because she wasn't proud, but because he didn't want anyone to know. Not his coworkers, not his colleagues, not his professional circle. A coworker with the Tennessee Titans, Mikhail Johnson, would later testify that during Jade's pregnancy, Blaze never mentioned a girlfriend, never mentioned a child, never mentioned becoming a father. To the people around him, that part of his life didn't exist. He had built two realities, one public, one hidden, and they never touched. Until February 25th, 2023. The day Jade's best friend, Nijaya Jackson, was about to meet him for the very first time.
When was the first time that you met Mr. Taylor?
On February 25th, in person.
Jade had planned the dinner herself. It wasn't random. It wasn't casual. It meant something. She had invited her closest friend, Nijaya Jackson. For the first time, she was bringing the two parts of her life together, her best friend and the man she was seeing. It was intentional. It was hopeful. It was Jade. She wanted Nijaya there. That night, they sat together. They talked. They shared a meal. They existed in the same space. For Jade, it mattered. At some point later that evening, Nijaya left the apartment. Nothing seemed out of place. Nothing seemed wrong. The night continued. Jade and Nijaya stayed in contact. Text messages, simple check-ins, normal conversation. The last message was sent at 9:29 p.m. And then Jade called. Nijaya answered, but Jade never said hello. There was no greeting, no introduction. Only her voice, unsteady, fading, afraid. You did this to me. You put something in my drink. I knew it tasted funny. I can't walk straight. Blaze, you're scaring me. She repeated it. The drink, the taste, the fear. Her voice weakening with each word. She said she was going to pass out. And then she stopped talking. 9 minutes later, at 9:38 p.m., Blaze Taylor called 911. He told the dispatcher Jade was having an allergic reaction. First responders arrived quickly. They entered the apartment. They found Jade unresponsive. But something else stood out. The apartment itself. It was unusually clean, unusually organized. For a medical emergency, nothing seemed disturbed. Nothing seemed chaotic. 2 dinner plates were still on the table, but only 1 glass. 1. Jade was 5 months pregnant. She wasn't drinking alcohol. And yet, photos taken on Jade's own phone earlier that night showed something else. A pink drink sitting in the kitchen. Visible, clear, undeniable. That cup was never recovered. It was gone. Investigators also noticed something else. Items visible in Jade's photos were no longer present in the apartment. They had disappeared. A comforter collected from the scene was later tested. It came back positive for cocaine. Jade was rushed to the hospital. Doctors worked to save her, but she never regained consciousness. Her daughter, Ivy Blair, was delivered by emergency medical staff. 2 days later, on February 27, 2023, Ivy died. Jade remained on life support until March 6, 2023, her 25th birthday. That was the day Jade Benning died. The forensic investigation would later confirm what Jade herself had already said. Dr. Aaron Carney, the forensic pathologist assigned to the case, conducted the toxicology analysis. The results were definitive. Cocaine was present in Jade's system. At a concentration so high, it could only be explained one way: direct ingestion, not accidental. Exposure. Not environmental contamination, direct ingestion. Jade had no history of cocaine use, no heart conditions, no medical explanation. The medical examiner reached a clear conclusion. The substance had entered her body. It had been consumed. And Jade herself had already told someone exactly how it happened.
First at 5, a former scout for the Tennessee Titans and the son of a longtime football coach, Trooper Taylor, is accused of murdering his girlfriend and his unborn child right here in Nashville. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Marius Payton.
And I'm Lauren Lowry. Blaze Taylor was arrested after a year-long investigation. It alleged he might have poisoned them. Our Marissa Sulik spoke to a friend of the woman who says this is one step closer to justice.
If you met 25-year-old Jade Benning, she would no doubt impact your life. That's why her friend Lauren Weber kept her close.
She was always inviting, always sweet, always wanted to know your story.
Lauren worked with Jade at Ernest Bar and Hideaway in Wedgwood, Houston. That's where Chef Jade's pictures sit throughout the restaurant, where she was the only woman in the kitchen.
You know, being the only female, she wanted to stand out, and she definitely did that.
But that passion was cut short after Metro Police say she was poisoned to death at 11 and Pike Townhouse. They say her boyfriend Blaze Taylor called 911 February 25th last year, saying she was having an allergic reaction. Police say her unborn baby girl died 2 days later. Jade passed away on March 6th, her own 25th birthday. Since then, Lauren has had little closure as to what happened.
It's been very anxiety driven, I would say, because it's, you know, you want things to happen quickly. And of course, on her family's terms, everybody wants it to be done and over with.
This week, Taylor, son of longtime football coach Trooper Taylor, was arrested in Utah for 2 counts of first-degree murder. It was an outcome we asked Weber about.
Again, keeping privacy, it was relieving. We know it's not the end, but it's definitely relieving to know that, you know, there's been another step made in this process and that Jade will get the justice that she needs. Like
now
JTB,
Lauren not only wears a bracelet in
butterfly on
her
the
friend's
side.
honor,
Always
but
play with
also
her
has a
since March
tattoo
6th.
of the day she
So, yeah,
died
my
on
family
her arm.
So
A reminder Jade had so many aspirations as a chef and mother.
Jade had a bright future ahead of her, and she would have been the most amazing mom that you could have ever imagined.
In the days that
We
followed,
did text Benning.
the people who loved Jade did what people do when grief arrives without warning. They gathered. They held each other. They tried to understand what had happened. Her family stayed close. Friends stayed closer. In Nashville, the restaurant community felt her absence immediately. The kitchens she had worked in, the people who had stood beside her, they mourned her. They lit candles. They told stories. They refused to let her name disappear. Because Jade wasn't just someone they knew. She was someone they loved. Her world stood still. But in Blaze Taylor's world, something else happened. According to his colleague with the Tennessee Titans, Mikal Johnson, Taylor returned to work, and he did not appear visibly distressed. He did not appear shaken. He did not appear broken. By Johnson's account, he behaved normally, not just that day, but for the rest of the week. Life continued. At some point later, Taylor spoke to his mother. He told her Jade was unwell, but he didn't tell her everything. He didn't tell her Jade was in critical condition. He didn't tell her she was pregnant with his child. He didn't tell her doctors did not expect her to recover. He gave her a different explanation. He said, it was COVID. One word, COVID, and nothing more. 2 months later, in May of 2023, Blaze Taylor left Tennessee. He accepted a new position, senior defensive analyst at Utah State. He relocated. New state, new job, new environment. There was no arrest, no charges, no public announcement. The investigation was still active, but it was quiet, and Taylor moved forward. His former employer issued no major statement. His new employer remained silent. No public interviews, no explanations, no questions answered. His world remained intact, but Jade's world never recovered. Her family carried the loss. Her friends carried the memory. Her community carried the grief. And for more than a year, while Jade's loved ones searched for answers, Blaze Taylor lived freely. Working, moving, existing, as if nothing had changed. For over a year, the silence held.
Hey there.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you doing?
Good.
Can I ask your name?
Blaze.
Blaze, I need you to step out of the car for me, okay?
Okay.
What's your last name?
Taylor.
Put your hands behind your back for me, okay?
What's wrong?
March 14th, 2024. 13 months after the night Jade Benning made that call. U.S. Marshals located Blaze Taylor, not inside a courtroom, not inside a police station, but in a Walmart parking lot in Utah. He was sitting inside a vehicle, and he was not alone. Officers approached. They identified themselves. The encounter was recorded, and Taylor responded with calm certainty. "I know absolutely nothing about the case." 7 words. Simple, direct, final. He was wearing a hoodie, printed across the front, 1 word: family. He was taken into custody, and on March 26, 2024, he was extradited to Nashville, Tennessee, back to the city where Jade lived, back to the city where she died. At his first court appearance, prosecutors made their intentions clear. They would seek life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The charges were severe: 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of felony murder, 1 set of charges for 8, Jade, and 1 set for her unborn daughter, Ivy. In April 2024, the bond hearing began. Jade's best friend, Najaya Jackson, took the stand. She described the phone call, what Jade said, how her voice sounded, how it ended. Dr. Erin Carney also testified. She explained the toxicology findings, the concentration levels, the medical conclusion. The defense argued that Taylor was not a flight risk. They pointed to his family, his career, his cooperation. They argued he would remain and face the court. The judge listened to everything: the testimony, the evidence, the arguments. And then he made his decision. Bond was set at $2.5 million. In his written order, Judge Steve Dozier included words that would draw attention. He stated that while the hearing was not a trial and he would not prejudge the outcome, he was troubled by the nature of the offenses. He also wrote that he was concerned about the balance of available evidence for conviction and the possibility of significant sentencing. On April 27, 2024, Taylor posted bond, 10% of the total, $250,000. He was released, placed under GPS monitoring, restricted to the Nashville area, but not in prison, not behind bars. Instead, waiting for the legal process to continue, waiting for the court to decide his future. His case remains open. As of February 2026, no trial has concluded. No final verdict has been delivered. A status hearing is scheduled for February 25th, 2026. Exactly 3 years to the day from the night Jade Benning picked up her phone and called her best friend. I want you to listen carefully to what comes next. What you're about to hear is the sworn testimony of Najaya Jackson, Jade Benning's best friend. This testimony was given during the bond hearing in April 2024. Najaya was one of the last people Jade spoke to while she was still conscious. She is the only person outside that apartment who heard Jade's voice in those final moments. Until now, we've reconstructed that night using court records, investigative findings, and verified reports. But hearing her testimony directly provides something different. It provides first-hand evidence. It provides her words, in her voice. The footage you're about to hear was recorded during the official court proceedings and later reported by WSMV4 News in Nashville. We are presenting this testimony here for documentation, analysis, and public understanding of the case.
When they stopped hanging out after she found out that she was pregnant.
And at any point, did you actually speak to Mr. Taylor?
No.
When was the first time that you met Mr. Taylor?
On February 25th, in person.
And could you please describe that February 25th? Kind of earlier that day, did you talk to Miss Benning?
I did. She kind of texted me and we were on FaceTime and she was telling me that she was going to plan a date night where she was going to make dinner, and she kind of asked me what should she make, and I suggested that she make chicken Alfredo, and she was saying that she was going to plan to paint with him, so she went and bought canvases and paint, and she had like a nice little setup for them to have like dinner and a paint night.
And
What Najaya Jackson described in that courtroom helped investigators establish the timeline of Jade's final conscious moments. Her testimony confirmed that Jade was aware something was wrong, that she recognized it, and that she said something investigators would later examine very closely. Her words didn't just describe a medical emergency. They described suspicion. They described fear. And they raised questions that would eventually lead to criminal charges. There is a restaurant in Nashville where a candle burns every night. Not for decoration, not for atmosphere, but for Jade. The staff wear bracelets with her name. Her manager carries a tattoo. And her creme brulee is still on the menu. Not because it has to be, but because the people who loved her chose not to let her disappear. Her daughter's name was Ivy Blair. She existed. She was real. She was loved. She was named before she ever arrived. Jade Benning spent the final years of her life building something meaningful. Her business, her career, her friendships, a future she could already see. And on the last night she was ever fully conscious, as her body began to fail her, as her strength began to leave her, her mind held on to one thing. She picked up her phone, she said his name, and she made sure someone knew. For a long time, he lived as if no one would, but Jade made sure they would anyway. The case against Blaze Allen Taylor remains pending in Davidson County, Tennessee, and we will continue to follow it carefully, respectfully, all the way to its conclusion. If you believe stories like Jade's deserve to be remembered, subscribe to CrimeCore TV, because every case we cover, we carry it fully, and we tell it so it is never forgotten. Jade Tristan Benning, born March 6, 1998. Remembered every single day.